Good morning, world. Happy Monday, TGIM. Are you ready to get this week started off on the right foot? I hope so. All right, so this week, I'd like you to consider a challenge, a problem, or an opportunity, something that is happening in your life where you currently feel stuck, frustrated, overwhelmed. Think of a challenging situation, all right? So take a quick minute, hit pause if you need to identify that situation, because we're going to work on that situation today. Okay, so what I'd like you to consider, I'm going to remind you or refresh your memory on a model that I introduced to you earlier in this series called the thought model. So the thought model simply states that there are circumstances or events in our life that can trigger thought. And those thoughts trigger our emotions drive our actions, and our actions determine the outcome or the results in our life. So if we look at the model, if we want to change the results or the outcomes in our life, right? We want to get different results in life. We kind of have to work our way back and choose different thoughts, or thoughts that are going to lead to the feelings that are going to lead to the actions that are going to lead to the outcomes that we want. But I also said in introducing the thought model that the circumstances or the events in your life are neutral or meaningless. And I wanted you to spend some time thinking about that. The events in your life are meaningless. Now, if you're like most people, you're probably feeling your ego push a little bit on that, saying, wait a minute, how dare you say the events in my life are meaningless? There are lots of events that happen in my life that I know have meaning. What about the birth of my child, or the death of a loved one, or getting married? Doesn't that have meaning? So let me just slow you down a bit and let's break it down. See, when I say that the circumstances in your life have no meaning, and you push back and say, well, what about the birth of a child? I would say, great, that's a great example. Who is applying the meaning of that birth? Who determines what it means to have a child? And you will probably respond, well, it's me. I get to determine that. And that kind of highlights the model. I'd say, great. So you have a circumstance or event that happens in your life, and then you move into thought. And it is through thought that you apply or you hang meaning onto the circumstance. So it's almost like that saying, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, if an event happens and nobody is around to apply meaning or to think about that event or that circumstance, it has no meaning. The event is neutral. So it is us who gets to determine what meaning we hang on to the circumstances or the events in our life. We get to choose. Now, I know at times it doesn't feel like a choice, and there are years and years of beliefs and conditioning and society who tells us what certain events in our life should mean, and we kind of adopt those meanings, and we just hang those meanings on those events. But I want you to pause and stop and consider, for the situation that you came up with earlier, so that challenge or that problem that you're currently feeling stuck on, what is the meaning that you are applying to that circumstance or that event? What meaning are you giving that event in your life? So if you want to think about that, go ahead and pause the video again and put it down on paper. Try and get clear on what it is that this event means to you. Now, once you've gotten clear on the meaning that you're applying to the circumstance in your life or this event in your life, I want you to ask yourself, does the meaning that I am giving to this circumstance, does it support me? Is it allowing my best self to come forward? Is it self-serving? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, also great. It's okay. Don't judge yourself for the meaning that you've applied to a circumstance, but you've now realized that, hey, this meaning that I'm giving this event really isn't helping me through the situation or for the situation. So then you can consider, well, what else could this mean? And it's okay to question the meanings that you've been giving to the events or the circumstances in your life. You can say, is this true for me? It may be true for the rest of society. It may be true for everyone else, but we have a choice. And so is this true for me, or is there another meaning that I can apply to this? A great example of this is when loved ones pass away. Now, in the Western world, We believe that death is sad, death is something that you grieve, we mourn the loss of a loved one, but that's not true in all cultures. In other cultures, they apply a different meaning to the loss of a loved one. So I want you to think about that is, have we just simply adopted meanings? Do we just take things for granted and say, well, when someone's born, that's what this means. When someone dies, this is the meaning. Or can you choose it to mean something else? Now, I'm not saying that this is easy in any way, shape, or form. It's just food for thought. So take some time to actually do the homework. So this week, I want you to consider your challenging situation, your barrier, wherever you're feeling stuck. I like to call them opportunities, but consider those opportunities and say, well, what meaning am I applying to this event or this situation? What meaning am I applying to this circumstance? And can I try on or choose to hang a different meaning on that event? Can it mean something else to me? So it is this philosophy or this concept that allows two people to experience the same event or the same circumstance, but walk away having two completely different experiences. They experience the same event completely different because of the meaning that they're hanging on it. So that's all I have for you this week. Again, I'd like to wish you a week full of peace and love. Take care, and I'll see you next Monday.